Racial prejudice has many faces. Sometimes it wears a business suit, carries a platinum credit card, and demands special treatment at 30,000 feet. This is a story of how bigotry can masquerade as entitlement, and how courage, even from the most unexpected sources, can stand firmly against it. Black boy asked to give up VIP seat for a white passenger. But one call to his CEO dad later, the entire flight crew was fired. What started as a blatant act of discrimination quickly turned into a lesson in power, privilege, and justice. The crew assumed the boy didn't belong in first class, but they had no idea who his father was. Calmly, the boy made a single phone call that changed everything. Black boy asked to give up VIP seat, and within minutes, the airline's top executive, his father, ensured accountability was served. This jaw-dropping true story is a reminder that respect should never be based on appearance, and that karma has a direct line to the top. Watch until the end to see how one young boy's dignity and one powerful phone call brought down an entire crew. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments, and click on the subscribe button if you believe everyone should be treated fairly without prejudice, no matter who they are. On what should have been a routine transcontinental flight, 15-year-old Malik Johnson sat quietly in seat 1A, the most coveted position in first class. His father, Dominic Johnson, CEO of Johnson Innovations, had specifically reserved this seat for his son's first solo journey. The leather seat felt soft against Malik's back as he sipped orange juice, watching the sunset paint the distant mountains in gold. "Would you like anything else, Mr. Johnson?" the attendant asked with genuine warmth. "No, thank you, this is perfect," Malik replied politely. The serenity was shattered by the sharp click of heels approaching down the aisle. Victoria Blackwell, draped in expensive designer wear, stopped at the entrance to first class, her eyes narrowing when they landed on Malik. "Excuse me," she announced loudly, summoning a flight attendant. "There's clearly been a mistake. Why is this boy sitting in my seat?" The attendant checked her tablet. "I'm sorry, Ms. Blackwell, but seat 1A is reserved for passenger Malik Johnson." Victoria's face contorted with indignation. "Impossible! Do you know who I am? I'm a Platinum Elite member. I always sit in 1A. Check again immediately." The cabin grew tense. Malik tightened his grip on his glass but remained composed, just as his father had taught him. "I've double-checked, Ms. Blackwell. This seat belongs to Mr. Johnson," the attendant confirmed. Victoria's voice turned icy as she stared directly at Malik. "No way. I've paid too much and been loyal to this airline for too many years to be treated like this. A boy like him shouldn't even be in first class. I demand you give up that seat right now." The racist undertone was unmistakable. Several passengers shifted uncomfortably. "I'm sorry, ma'am," Malik replied with remarkable poise. "But this is my seat, and I cannot give it up." Victoria stood frozen, her face flushing crimson. She leaned down, her voice low but deliberately audible. "You should be sitting somewhere more appropriate for your kind. Someone like you wouldn't understand the value of this VIP seat." "Ma'am," Malik responded, looking her squarely in the eye, "my father reserved this seat for me. I'm fully capable of sitting in the seat I've been assigned, and I have no intention of moving." "I have never been treated like this," Victoria fumed to the flight attendant. "Call your supervisor immediately." Soon, Flight Supervisor Rachel Morgan arrived, quickly assessing the situation. After hearing Victoria's demands, she turned to Malik with a practiced smile. "Perhaps you could move to another comfortable seat, just to avoid inconveniencing other passengers, so the flight can depart on time?" Victoria smirked triumphantly, certain she had won. "I understand what you're saying," Malik replied calmly, "but I don't think I need to leave the seat my father reserved for me. I deserve the same respect as any other passenger." Victoria exploded. "This is unacceptable. Resolve this immediately." As tension escalated, Victoria addressed the entire cabin. "Look, everyone, this is what happens when we let someone like him sit where he doesn't belong. I've been loyal for years, and now I'm being displaced by some pampered child." She pointed accusingly at Malik. "Are you really so shameless? How long will it take for you to learn that people like you don't deserve special treatment? Do you think just sitting there entitles you to what your father paid for? How laughable! The cabin buzzed with uncomfortable whispers. Some passengers frowned at Victoria's outburst, but most remained silent, unwilling to intervene. If this airline doesn't resolve this absurd situation right now, Victoria threatened, I'll call my lawyer and the newspapers. Everyone will know how this airline treats its elite customers. Just as the situation seemed about to boil over, Malik reached for his phone. I understand completely, he said quietly. Perhaps I should call my father about this. The air in the cabin seemed to still as Malik pulled out his sleek smartphone. His fingers moved confidently across the screen, scrolling to a contact simply labeled Dad. Victoria watched with barely concealed contempt, seemingly unconcerned by the teenager's action. Go ahead and call whoever you want, she scoffed. It won't change the fact that you're sitting where you don't belong. Malik placed the phone to his ear, his composure unwavering despite the hostility surrounding him. After 2 rings, a deep voice answered. The conversation was brief, but clear. Dad? I'm on the flight. There's a situation. Yes, about seat 1A. A woman is demanding I give up my seat. She's been quite insistent. No, I haven't moved. The supervisor is suggesting I should switch. Throughout the conversation, Victoria maintained her haughty expression, arms crossed tightly across her chest. Rachel Morgan, the flight supervisor, shifted uncomfortably, her confident demeanor beginning to crack. He wants to speak with you, Malik said, extending the phone toward Rachel. The supervisor's face paled slightly as she accepted the device. This is Rachel Morgan, flight supervisor. What followed was a one-sided conversation that caused the color to drain completely from Rachel's face. The cabin remained silent, every passenger now fully invested in the unfolding drama. Yes, Mr. Johnson. I understand. Yes, sir. Of course. No, that wasn't our intention. Yes, sir. Immediately, sir. When Rachel handed the phone back to Malik, her hands were visibly trembling. She turned to Victoria, her professional composure fractured. Ms. Blackwell, I need to inform you that Mr. Johnson will be remaining in his assigned seat. Dominic Johnson, CEO of Johnson Innovations, has personally confirmed his son's seating arrangement. Victoria's expression morphed from smugness to shock. The Dominic Johnson? Furthermore, Rachel continued, her voice growing firmer, Mr. Johnson has expressed serious concerns about how this situation has been handled. He's requesting documentation of this incident, including security footage. Victoria's face contorted with panic. Now wait just a minute. Mr. Johnson also mentioned, Rachel pressed on, that he sits on the board of several civil rights organizations and has instructed his legal team to review this matter for potential discrimination. The atmosphere in the cabin shifted dramatically. Passengers who had remained silent now whispered among themselves, many casting disapproving glances toward Victoria. This is ridiculous, Victoria sputtered. I didn't mean… Ms. Blackwell, Rachel said firmly. We have another first-class seat available in 3C. I suggest you take it, or we can discuss alternative flight arrangements. Victoria stood frozen, her face flushed with humiliation rather than anger. The power dynamic had shifted completely. Her gaze darted around the cabin, registering the judgmental stares of those who had witnessed her behavior. Fine, she muttered finally. 3C will be acceptable. As Victoria retreated to her new seat, followed by the flight supervisor, an older black gentleman seated across the aisle leaned toward Malik. Young man, he said quietly, I watched that whole exchange and didn't say a word. I should have spoken up. Thank you for standing your ground with such dignity. Malik nodded appreciatively, a small smile crossing his face. Minutes later, as the plane taxied toward the runway, Rachel Morgan returned to Malik's seat. Mr. Johnson, I want to personally apologize for how this situation was handled. It was completely unacceptable. Thank you, Malik responded politely. My father always says that how we respond to injustice defines our character. The flight proceeded without further incident. Victoria remained silent in seat 3C, avoiding eye contact with everyone. 2 weeks later, Johnson Innovations announced a major partnership with the airline to implement diversity and anti-bias training for all staff. The press release mentioned an incident that had highlighted the need for systematic change in how passengers of all backgrounds are treated. For young Malik Johnson, what began as a simple solo journey became a powerful lesson in standing firm against prejudice. And for everyone else on that flight, it served as a stark reminder that dignity and respect should never be determined by the color of one's skin, not at 30,000 feet, nor anywhere else. 3 months after the incident, Malik sat in his father's expansive office overlooking the city skyline. Dominic Johnson, an imposing figure whose quiet strength commanded respect, without needing to raise his voice, studied a document on his desk. "They've implemented all the changes we requested," Dominic said, sliding the paper toward his son. "Anti-bias training for every employee, from executives to ground staff. New protocols for handling seating disputes, and a zero-tolerance policy for discriminatory behavior, from passengers as well as staff." Malik nodded thoughtfully. "Do you think it will make a difference?" Dominic leaned back in his chair. "Change happens one policy, one person, one moment at a time. What matters is that you stood your ground that day." The airline's transformation had indeed been swift and comprehensive. The incident, while never explicitly detailed in public, had become a watershed moment for the company. Victoria Blackwell's name had appeared in an internal review, resulting in the revocation of her platinum status, and a formal letter requesting she find alternative travel arrangements for the foreseeable future. But the story didn't end there. A knock at Dominic's office door interrupted their conversation. His assistant entered, followed by a familiar face, the older black gentleman who had spoken to Malik on the flight. "Dr. Henderson is here for your meeting," the assistant announced. Malik's eyes widened in recognition as Dr. William Henderson extended his hand. "Good to see you again, young man," Dr. Henderson said warmly. "Your father and I have been discussing something important." It turned out that Dr. Henderson, a respected civil rights attorney and educator, had been so moved by Malik's composure during the incident that he had reached out to Dominic Johnson. Together, they had developed a nationwide educational initiative aimed at high school students, standing firm, confronting everyday bias. "We're launching in 50 schools next semester," Dr. Henderson explained, "teaching young people how to recognize prejudice and respond with dignity, just as you did." "Would you consider sharing your experience as part of the program?" Dominic asked his son. "Your story could help other young people find their voice." Malik hesitated only briefly before nodding. "If it helps even one person feel stronger when facing discrimination, it's worth it." Meanwhile, across town, Rachel Morgan sat in a corporate boardroom. Following the incident, she had expected termination. Instead, the airline had done something unexpected. They'd promoted her. As the newly appointed Director of Customer Experience and Inclusion, she was now responsible for ensuring that what happened to Malik would never happen again. "The Johnson case changed everything," she explained to her team. "It showed us that doing what's convenient isn't the same as doing what's right. Our new policies aren't just about avoiding lawsuits, they're about treating every passenger with equal dignity." The most surprising development came 6 months after the flight. Victoria Blackwell, whose social standing had suffered significantly following whispers about the incident, requested a private meeting with the Johnsons. In Dominic's office, Victoria sat rigidly, her usual confidence absent. "I've spent months reflecting on my behavior," she began, her voice uncharacteristically subdued. "I've had to confront some uncomfortable truths about myself and the assumptions I've carried throughout my life." She turned to Malik. "I owe you an apology. My words and actions that day weren't just about a seat. They revealed prejudices I've denied having for years. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just the opportunity to make amends." Victoria explained that she had enrolled in implicit bias training and had begun volunteering with a community organization serving underprivileged youth, many of whom looked like Malik. "It doesn't erase what happened," she acknowledged. "But it's a start. Dominic and Malik exchanged glances, both recognizing the rarity of such genuine contrition. "Real change begins with acknowledgement," Dominic said finally. "What matters now is what you do with this awareness." 1 year to the day after the incident, Malik Johnson again boarded a plane, taking seat 1A. This time he was traveling to Washington, D.C. to speak at a national conference on corporate responsibility and racial equity. The flight attendant who greeted him wore a small pin on her uniform, a new symbol the airline had adopted representing their commitment to inclusive service. As the plane took off, Malik thought about how a single moment of standing firm against injustice had created ripples that continued to spread. His father had always taught him that dignity was not something others could give or take away. It was something you claimed for yourself. Looking out the window at the clouds below, Malik understood more deeply than ever before that the sky, like opportunity, like respect, like justice, should have no barriers based on the color of one's skin. And sometimes, it took the clear-eyed courage of a 15-year-old to remind the world of that fundamental truth. In seat 1A, Malik Johnson smiled and opened his laptop to review his speech one last time. Its title read simply, "The Seat We Refuse to Surrender, Standing Firm Against Everyday Racism."